I see innovation not only as an exclusively technical thing. Yeah. Of course, innovation can be technical, but innovation can be also a cultural thing. Innovation can be a physical thing, how we get together, how we meet each other.
Welcome to a brand new episode of our podcast, Human and AI, Mind, Machines, and the Gradient Descent.
Awesome that you tuned in. We are Vera and Uli, the moderators of today's podcast. And our today's genius mind is Thomas Luister. He says that he is on the hunt for cultural and technical experiments to transform Siemens from inside out. In addition, he is also the chairman of the iDeaCompany, an internal startup and a community of Siemens employees who take ownership of innovation. That sounds bold and awesome. Enough of an introduction. Let's dive right into it. More than happy to have Thomas with us today. Thomas, thanks for joining us today. Can you describe in a couple of minutes who are you and how did you end up at Siemens?
Well, first of all, I'm the one with a big smile on my face getting these props even before I said anything in here. Yeah. I mean, you said I'm the chair of iDeaCompany. We are a community of volunteers who try to do things a bit differently within Siemens. Even if we are in a corporate, we try to do everything not to be corporate, to think a bit out of the boxes, to experiment a little bit and to change the organization in several ways.
But who are you? Who is Tom? How did you end up at committed to Siemens?
Well, the journey was quite similar as for many others. I was working for an external consultancy, then had a huge project within Siemens and was pulled into the system. And more than happy about that since 8 years now.
And your origin, what is your origin? Are you computer science? Are you, economics? Where was your roots?
I'm coming from the complete different angle. I studied psychology of work and then worked as an IT consultant. However, that took place. There is a bigger story behind that. But well, I was always affine for any IT topics. And so I ended up at IT within Siemens.
I'm curious, what is the biggest story behind it?
Yeah, I was running an external company, a quite small one, and it was back in 2007 when SharePoint came up from Microsoft, or the first SharePoint server. And a friend of mine was working for a consultancy, and he said, well, we're doing SharePoint everywhere, so it could be a great solution for you to organize your internal stuff. So while we set up a server, well, a colleague of mine set it up. And 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from the boss of my colleague who said, I've heard that you're a SharePoint expert. We are looking for some new hires. And I said, well, I know how to write it. He said, well, that's enough. Come and join our team. And that's how I got to the consulting, to IT consulting.
Yeah, getting expertise and applying it. Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. But before diving into the geeky things, right? We have somehow the experience that who is passionate about technology, who is passionate about innovation, is also passionate about music. Are you into music? Any instruments you play? And if you reflect on the last couple of weeks and months, what would be then the soundtrack of your, of Tom over the last months?
Well, I'm a bit into music. I started to play the piano. Actually, started with my kids like 4 years ago, and really fond of doing that. But besides that, I'm more into electronical music. Yeah, and if I had to explain the last weeks in any kind of music, then it would be really progressive drum and bass with very high beats per minute, because there is lots to do currently.
So there's a lot to do currently, but how do you and your team experience the current situation? And what gets you and your team motivated, and how do you cope with the challenges?
Well, if we face on the challenges first, actually for us, the challenge isn't that big as we are completely virtual, or we were a completely virtual team even before the current situation. Most of the people I work with, I've never met them. So I mean, we're a community of volunteers, just people here and there dropping in, popping out. So the same setting as everybody's in right now. When it comes to the motivation, this is quite high at the moment because, I mean, we at iDeaCompany, we say that we connect employees. We are driving this digital mindsets within Siemens and, of course, all the tools that we built in the past. are heavily used and promoted in all angles of the organization. So, I mean, be it podcasting tools that we deliver internally, some virtual event platforms and stuff like that. So there's lots of momentum going on, lots of people who are getting aware of iDeaCompany, and this really keeps us busy. But this is the positive form of being busy. Yeah.
So one step back, can you describe to the audience what's it all about, the iDeaCompany?
Well, as I said, we are a community of volunteers. We make ideas happen that wouldn't happen if there weren't iDeaCompany. So usually there are lots of great ideas within a corporate, but then people always say, okay, who's financing that? Then there is no budget, and then it just ends up in good ideas. What we do is that we, with our volunteers, make things happen, and we don't need any budgets. We don't need any headcounts, because we just gather all the resources that we need to implement things. And things can then be, currently we're working in 3 areas. It can be tools, so small web application apps where we really support people, like an internal podcasting platform, some event platforms that we're building. It can be cultural events where we run innovation festivals, we do after-work sessions. We had a Dogs at Work project, and we are experimenting a little bit with services, how we call it, where we try to come up with services where Siemens is usually paying money to external agencies, and we are just internalizing them, or coming up with nice, easy, hands-on solution to record podcasts without an agency, because everybody can do it. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, so awesome, man. So in first place, I need to say, hey, because IT in terms of Corona, enormous kudos to the IT organization for making a virtual organization, right? 360,000 people and more, I guess, right? Suddenly in home office, suddenly dialing in, suddenly using URA and tooling, right, and making this stable networks, folks out there. If you are in IT and Siemens IT, a lot of kudos goes from us to you guys, because that's pretty awesome what you have done, right? Enormous effort having this smoothness. This is not, I guess in the past, a lot of bashing is always done on the corporate level, right? I guess, but this really shows the beauty and the power of Siemens IT. Yeah. What's interesting is, right, we in the lab, in the Siemens AI lab, we also explore a bit of the concept of what we call holacracy, right? And I've read and heard about, right, as the iDeaCompany is also a virtual representation. So you're also pushing towards self-organization within the idea, right? Is that too lunatic organization? How would it work? How does it work being, not as an org chart button in there, but having a self-organization? Can you share some of, the process do you follow? What is the setup? Why is people joining here?
I mean, when we started iDeaCompany, it was set up as a startup. We had a CEO, a CIO, CTO, whatever. And then when I was elected as CEO, I said, well, the first thing that I want to do is get rid of titles, get ready for growth. Yeah. And this management board was just erased. Yeah, of course, that gave lots of discussions and some argumentations internally. But we also looked at all these holacracy things, sociocracy, and all these self-organizing methodologies which are out there. And in the end, we just built up something out of the stuff that we saw out there, which is valid for us. And now we have a structure which is oriented on sociocracy. So we have these circle structures. We don't have any hierarchies. We only have, for these topic circles, always lead. And the lead is not a hierarchy. It's just a coordinating function to keep the dots together. We are fully based on a pull principle. So no one within iDeaCompany can ever tell anybody else to do something. It's always, hey, we have a new idea. We have a new to do. Who's willing to help? And then if someone's raising the hand, we are implementing the stuff. And if there is no reaction, then it just ends up in a backlog. And this is the way how we organize ourselves. We then have an OKR cycle, these objectives and key results that we set up in a 3-month range, where we define for all these circles we are working on, these tools, the experiences, the cultural stuff, and these services, where we define, okay, this is the focus for the next 3 months. And then we try to attract people to join us to make these focus topics happen. Then we communicate it to the community afterwards. So every 3 months, there's a broadcast, how we call it, where we then tell everybody who's interested what have we achieved in the last 3 months and what is the focus for the next 3 months.
So the OKRs are fully transparent, or is somebody revising them? How do you set targets, right? How do you set these key results in the division? Is that fully transparent, or it is that individual cycle? Can you share a bit of the best practice there?
Yeah, it's transparent. So it's not the circle lead or me as a chairman of iDeaCompany defining these targets. We just sit together in these circles and we say, okay, next 3 months, what shall we focus on? Then someone is saying, well, I'd like to work a bit on the back end or the infrastructure topics to get a bit more professional. The other one is saying, hey, I've that great idea to XYZ, and I would like to pick that one up. Is anyone willing to help? And this is how we define these key results. And for us, the key results, it's not these hard targets that you're used to have in a corporate or something. Yeah, for us, it's really focused topics. So we say this is our focus that we then can communicate to all the peers out there and say, look, this is what we want to do. Do you want to support? We look for some people to support the next stage of our internal podcast platform. Is there anyone with experience, anyone who's really into podcasting who wants to support? And this, for example, was the way how we got started, because we just attracted the podcast community within Siemens, who then were willing to help. And this is how we run the whole story then.
So it sounds like communication is key. So you say about yourself that innovation is my challenge, communication my strength. What role has communication in the innovation process or self-organization?
Well, communication is a very important part. First of all, to that statement with innovation is my challenge. I see innovation not only as an exclusively technical thing. Yeah, of course, innovation can be technical, but innovation can be also a cultural thing. Innovation can be a physical thing, how we get together, how we meet each other. Innovation is a wide range. And of course, communication is everything, because if we are not able to communicate what we are doing, if you're not able to motivate people, not able to give the necessary appreciation in our environment, then we won't make things happen. If we try to do things on our own and get this not invented here syndrome, then I think we will never be successful, especially not in a self-organized system where you do things because you want to do things and not because you want to shine in the end. I think that's the big thing. You need to communicate.
I guess, if you set up such a marvelous organization in a process-driven organization, such as large corporates, right? That attracts always somehow what we call, I guess, the corporate rebels, right? So, and conformity is the enemy of innovation, right? And it's barely you find these rebels, right? Do we need more rebels in our organization? And how do we make sure we don't crush them? And, that these kinds of rebels which break boundaries with like, what, let's do that, right? Let's not ask for 20 permissions and push towards the hierarchy. How do you survive as a rebel in large organizations?
Well, first of all, I don't see myself as a rebel. Yeah, actually, because I don't like this expression of corporate rebels. Because a rebel for me is someone who's fighting against something. And if you try to fight against the establishment, if you try to fight against the corporate, you'll never be successful. My mindset is that we are working towards something. And I'm not sure whether all rebellions have the aim of working towards something. Yeah. Also in the current situation, yeah, it might be good what we are doing, what the governments are doing might be bad. But just coming up with ideas and conspiracy things and being against everything doesn't help anyone. So I think we don't need more rebels. I think we need more people who are proactively trying to drive their ideas into a company. No one is helped with if people have thousands of ideas. We need people who make things happen. And this is what we need. And this is where we need breeding grounds to make this happen. And I'm absolutely convinced that we have to stop complaining about the current situation. Yeah.
So being a rebel is not always beneficial and could also prohibit innovation in a way. What would be the top 3 reasons from your perspective why most corporate innovation programs fail?
I think it's silos, silos, and silos.
Okay.
I mean, if you have a look at our company, there are lots and tons of innovation initiatives, and I mean, you've seen them, you know them. They're everywhere. Yeah, we're building even platforms to give transparency on the different innovation initiatives. Why? Because everybody wants to have his own initiative that then gets the visibility and the success and this stamp that you did something good in the end. And I think that's the big problem. If you have a look what usually happens, and it doesn't matter which initiative we are looking at, there might be some which are better than others, but in many cases, there is a small initiative started in one department, and then you get this first investment and first supporters, and then you get a business case, and then comes the place where someone from the other silo is looking at you saying, hey, I would like to get your support as well, but then your management says, well, but we can't support the other use cases with our innovation budget, and then the ideas dry out. And I think this is really the main problem, that we don't have central innovation budget which is accessible for everyone, because even the overall initiatives are funded somewhere. Yeah, I mean, if you look at some initiatives within Siemens, for the one you have to be a German employee, for the other one you have to work at CT, for the other one you have to be at SCM, for the next one you have to be at Energy. But you can't start a project where a person from CT, IT, SCM, a guy from India works together. This will lead to a conflict in the end. And I think this is a problem. The colleagues at Energy are doing a great job right now. They're starting one of these Kickstarter initiatives really over the whole company, and everybody can apply, and it's clear how the thing is going. And I really like their approach. So really appreciation to the guys setting up the whole process over there.
Yeah, truly right. They also pick up a bit of the concept of crowdfunding, right? The quick starter momentum that Siemens also had, together and foster the engagement, let's say, right, from the entire organization. I guess also, culture and failure culture is something of important. In the lab, we run what we call, so-called coding sprints, development sprints. We call them, fail fast in 5 days, in order to motivate a bit of the aspect that we want to explore certain capabilities, and therefore we need to go risky, and we want to learn and test and adapt as fast as possible, and learn to get enough about, how to improve over different iterations. And that means, a culture of, let's say, exploration, a culture of feedback, getting feedback. How do you cope with, a failure culture in the iDeaCompany? Do you have special formats for that? Would you want to kind of share with us?
The good thing is we are not burning any budget. And if you're not burning any budget, then you can't fail. It's just some things work out and some others don't. I mean, we even have a podcast which is called What's the Next Big Idea? And it's not about these fancy, shiny, successful ideas. It's also about all these ideas that just didn't work out in the end, where people tried something, they had a good idea, but for some reason it didn't work out. And I think this is the mindset that we had. We are the ones who are bold enough to try things out. We are the ones inviting some management to new formats where we just try new technology, and we tell them, if you participate, it might happen that this doesn't work out, even in a live event with 5,000 participants. And I think this is what we just make clear from the very beginning, that we are here to try something out. And if we have 10 ideas, 7 might work out, 3 of them might really get successful, and the other ones, they just won't scale up. They are there, but nobody uses them. And it's absolutely clear for everyone. And I think this is the good one. Usually there's always someone who has to say, okay, whose fault was it? And we don't have it because we didn't burn any budget. We don't have a customer behind our ideas. We just make ideas happen that might be usable and scalable throughout the organization. And if you're not successful, then this idea just would not scale up.
Talking about trying and failing, when was the last time you really fucked it up, like on a corporate level? And what did you learn out of it?
I mean, we are somehow successful. We are somehow fucking it up every day. Yeah? If you're running a community of volunteers, you always, I mean, you rely on people, and then you realize, okay, they just have other projects, and you can't do anything. And this is, for me, the fuck ups, when I realize that we want to do something, but we can't due to the organization. Yeah, because people, they have motivation and commitment and they can't. And these are the bad moments for me. Besides that, I mean, of course, we sometimes get some some hiccups in the stuff that we do, but there wasn't that really big issue. Yeah. I mean, I remember one thing that was quite a funny one. We came out with a new application, and it was kind of a couch surfing application at Siemens. And then someone came and said, "Hey, you can't call it couch surfing because couch surfing is a trademark." Then we discussed internally, had a quick coffee, a virtual coffee, and 10 minutes later, we had a new name. Everybody was happy. We promoted it. We went live. And then we realized that that platform was also trademarked, but no one checked it. Yeah. And even a worse one. Yeah, that was one of the fuck ups of the last half year. Yeah.
Okay. But we need to talk also about somehow of the role of AI, obviously, right? How do you see the role of artificial intelligence for a corporate IT? Can you share some thoughts, your view on what's the impact of AI in the IT landscape?
Mm-hmm. I mean, AI, yeah. Are there any buzzwords out there? I think so, yes. Is AI one of them? Yes. Not in a negative sense, just in a sense that it's hard to set a frame around and say, okay, this is AI, this is not AI anymore. And this is the big advantage of AI, I think. Yeah. Whenever we talk about digitalization, yeah, there might be AI involved. Whenever we talk about Industry 4.0, there might be AI involved. And AI is IT, yeah, just in a different sense. And I think we just all have to work together. And there I'm back to the silo topic. It doesn't matter where you're from. Let's have your ideas and see how you can use the state of the art technology stack to make things happen. And I think this is where I see AI within IT, yeah, to brainstorm together how we can leverage the topics.
I see quite some aspect, right? At the moment, we come in from a loop where a lot of each individual business units, but also individual companies out there, right, do their exploration, do their phase on getting the hands on AI and machine learning technology, about the toolboxing, are in different natures. So it's like, starting with, I don't know, working students or some second external company, third, maybe internal, some kinds of competences, and then, maybe gathering a competence level. And though there seem to be a lot of aspects, initiatives, trapped in what's called the never-ending proof of concept phase, right? Not going to productive, right? Which seems to be very critical. It's like, trying things out and shipping AI to practice and in productive is something different. And I think that's somehow such a great opportunity for an IT organization, which themselves is sort of software-driven, code-based driven, right? To see like, okay, this helping, this industrial AI DevOps, basically, taking this challenge and enabling that, right? That would be a great opportunity, actually.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there are lots of initiatives doing a great job. I mean, the AI Lab, yeah, what a great approach. Also, the guys from IT, the Digitalization Enablement Center, doing a great job. Yeah, I mean, they're the ones setting up making these platforms available for Siemens. Yeah, that you can play around and make your use cases on these platforms like Google Cloud Platform and Amazon and whatever they're called. Yeah. And I think this is necessary to make AI accessible and understandable for our employees and to take the fear from the business to get in touch with these technologies because you think, oh, that's the next thing I don't understand. Yeah. Show them it's easy. Let's get started. Let's run a 5 days fail fast workshop and see where we get with our idea and to see whether it makes sense to use these technologies for our use cases or not. And there again, we need a central budget that there is not a customer saying, okay, I'm now willing to pay 15,000 euro to run this project. It should be the other way around. You have to at least run 10 of these workshops a year to reach your goals. Yeah, this should be the way. And people would be much bolder or bold enough to start these things. Does it make sense?
It definitely makes sense. Yeah, I agree. If you like pushing AI and automation solution possess also challenges, like we already said, on the team and colleague side. with regards to upskilling, mindset, maybe also agility. Can you share some challenges, but also best practices, like to sum it up, that you collected throughout the transformation?
It's always hard if you go to the majority of the people and say, why don't you skill up? Why aren't you interested in these topics? Then most of them will tell you because I don't have any time. Yeah. And I think that's the same what I just said before. It's not about a person who has to take the decision to gather new knowledge. It has the organization telling you that it's part of your job to do this. And I mean, if I tell you that you only reach your bonus this year's, or you only reach your goals this year's if you, I don't know what, we all know these goal processes that we have, and we have to tell the people, do educate yourself. Yeah, this is necessary, and this is just a complete change in the mindset that we need to do. But to be honest, I don't know how to set it up, because so many people are so, I don't know whether it's just lazy, whether it's this change resistant, or what it is that people are not willing to proactively get involved into these topics. Because 1 hour a week is so much. Yeah, do a 1 hour tutorial online on whatever platform, and you gain so much knowledge.
Do you have some recommendations for platforms you use for stuff like upskilling?
I mean, you can start with these Google AI sites, the Microsoft teaching sites that are out there. You can go to Coursera. You can go to Pluralsight if you have licenses for it. I think it doesn't matter. If you're not a real geek on these topics, then it doesn't matter where you go. Even each article you read on Medium or LinkedIn is worth to read. But don't stop reading because it's longer than 2 minutes. Yeah, that's the thing. People want to have this 2-minute information snippets, but then you will never overcome this burden of what is the difference between AI and machine learning and deep learning. You won't get there if you just read these 2-minute articles.
Yeah, but I guess it's a challenge, right? And it's digitalization and digitizing the process have such a profound impact, right, on the way we work and how we collaborate and the way we communicate, right? That's a challenge, and it's not to blame, not only to blame, on certain people, but it's it's part of all of our, I guess, responsibilities to to come up with ideas, how to motivate, how to collaborate, how to engage, and making this transformation which significantly changes the way how we do it, not because only we are now in a distributed home office setup, but as it continues that we digitize our process and we make it more efficient and we turn things upside down, basically, right? And that's really tricky. That's really a huge challenge, I guess, right?
It is a challenge, yeah. On the other hand, I mean, I'm not that much into AI topics. I'm a lot into, well, let's call it web development, app development stuff. And this is what iDeaCompany also is for, that we have that guy who says, actually, I did some coding when I was, I don't know, at school, but I never really got into it. And then he comes to iDeaCompany saying, hey, I have some coding background, but never really did it. Is there any possibility to pick that up with iDeaCompany? And we said, for sure. Come in, try out. Here's some use cases, play around with it. There's the platform. There's our code, Siemens.com. Grab our code. Here's some tutorials. This is how we work. And then people start working. And I think this is the environment that we have to deliver and allow within the working hours that people spend some of their time on projects they'd love to spend their time on. And it's not only about AI. Someone might be interested in marketing topics. Someone might be interested in storytelling and writing articles. The other one wants to get into AI, and the next one into blockchain technology. It doesn't matter which one you choose, but we have to give the opportunity to choose something. And I think many people just are afraid to ask, or are working in a very challenging environment that doesn't allow to easily say, I'm going to spend 2 hours a week on AI. Your boss might even say, go for it, but you're already working 45, 50, 60 hours. And then, I can do, but then it's the 61 and 62nd hour, and you might not be willing to do such. Yeah.
Yeah, true, actually. But you're also pushing and enabling and shaping different initiative towards corporate responsibility or sustainability most recently, right? Can you share some of the lessons learned? We last week I guess you connected into the entire world, right? It was like a full blown day with initiatives. Can you share a bit of the role of it here, your motivation behind it maybe, and what's all about in this global Earth connection?
Yeah, actually, it again came from that I don't like the rebel stuff. Yeah. I mean, we've seen lots of these different initiatives out there, which are always telling everyone, you have to change. You have to do something different. Politics have to change. The corporates have to change. And I say, no, no, no. You have to change. You have to change yourself. And this is where the initiative in Munich was born. Together with a good colleague of mine, we started this Siemens Goes Green initiative, where we stopped mowing the lawns on our huge campus in Munich at Siemens, where we started to set up some bird feeding stations and similar other stuff. Yeah. And we did a podcast around that, and then many other initiatives worldwide got in contact with us saying, hey, great, we're also having some initiatives at our local sites. And in Orlando, they had a group who said, well, we're participating at Earth Day since years. And we said, Earth Day, Siemens, what a great idea. Why don't we join all together and make a huge event out of it? And actually it was planned to have like 10,000 Siemens employees out there in environmental activities on Earth Day, 22nd of April. But then Corona came and somehow it was not possible anymore. So we then said, well, just let at least have a virtual event to let all the people come together who are already planning stuff like you in the AI lab with this sustainability hackathon and other initiatives, just displaying what's already going on within Siemens. And the day is not canceled, it's just postponed. And we're going to bring these 10,000 people out there in activities whenever it's possible again.
That sounds really great. Thomas, we are almost at the very end of our session. But before, we have a small game for you. Let me give you, for the closing, a couple of sentence starter phrases, and you will finish. Siemens is.
Awesome.
Innovation is.
You already know that, my challenge.
Purpose is.
Well, purpose is something we have to finalize and not get stuck with.
The person that inspires me the most is?
Currently my daughter.
My favorite quote is?
That's the Peter Drucker one. We can't, I don't know the exact words, but we can't face today's challenges with yesterday's methods.
Thank you so much for your time and the inspiring insights.
Thomas, thanks very much. Man.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was a pleasure, as always.
Folks out there, stay tuned. There is so much to come. Stay bold, committed, and open-minded, and hear you at the next Siemens AI Lab podcast. Cheers.